CNN's latest fixation, whether it's a Chinese flu virus or George Floyd or some forgettable border dispute in eastern Ukraine. These are the issues they tell us we must care about. But they're wrong. These are not the most important issues. They're just news stories. The only remarkable thing about them is our willingness to believe they're more important than, say, Americans living outdoors on the sidewalk, or whether or not our own children get married. There's something a little scary about watching this happen. It's like an entire population transfixed by issues that ultimately don't really matter. How's that going to work out? Well, over time, probably not very well. Reality always reasserts itself. Twitter can ban all the thought criminals it wants, but in the end, Twitter is not in charge of the future. Nature is in charge of the future. If you want your country to continue, you have to answer nature's imperatives, which are the basics. Do you have enough water? Do you have a reliable food supply? Can you defend yourself from invaders? What are you using for energy? How are you producing things and keeping warm? Those are the essential questions that any civilization must ask. Those and one other. How many people do you want living in your country? The size of your population matters very much. The size determines a nation's character. It often determines its fate. Yet we don't talk much about the size of our population. We probably should. The United States is growing faster than most Americans understand. If you were born in 1969, as some of us were, you arrived in a country with a little over 200 million people in it. There are now 334 million people in it. That's an awful lot of new people in an awful short time. How many people is that exactly?
Very good.
It's nearly twice the population of the entire western United States. That's 13 states, including California. That is massive and incredibly rapid demographic growth. And it's accelerating. Immigration is now at the highest level ever recorded in American history. So is the number of foreign-born already living here. Over just the last year, roughly 2 million people from the third world came across our borders illegally. All of them arrived with the blessing of the White House. It makes you wonder what sort of economy Joe Biden imagines we're going to have going forward. Domestic manufacturing is in steep decline. Automation is replacing many of the low-skilled jobs that still remain. So what are these millions of new people going to be doing for work 20 years from now? They can't all be Nancy Pelosi's housekeepers. They can't all bus tables at the French Laundry in Napa. And not all of them will, thank God. In spite of the Democratic Party's best efforts to import a permanent serf class to serve its donors, some of these immigrants will rise higher than Nancy Pelosi expects they will. Some will fight their way to the top of our society with the usual combination of inborn talent and grit. And honestly, bless them for that. No one invited them here. We didn't want them to come, but we will be sincerely glad when they succeed. And yet, a country is more than the success of a handful of people, inspiring as that always is to watch. Sheer numbers matter too. Even if every single person who snuck across our southern border this year goes on to win the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, it would still be worth worrying about the effects that mass immigration have on our total population numbers. So the question is, how many people is too many? In Washington, you will never hear that question. More bodies in...
Critical race theory hurts Black America. Critical race theory is a cancer in our society. It is a race-obsessed worldview. Can you believe it? Yes, that's right. I'm still here. Living in this tent for 100 days from November the 20th to February 28th, bringing to you the issues and making you aware about the violence on the south side of Chicago, but also trying to raise as much money as possible to build a community center on a block that is much needed, a block called O Block. It's called O Block because it's named after a young man named Odie Perry who was shot and killed. The gangs took the O in his name, started calling it O Block. We decided we're going to keep the O, but we're going to make an opportunity block. I'm so grateful and thankful to Fox Network for giving this opportunity to give you Rooftop Revelations, to share with you my thoughts, my opinions, my expressions. Today I want to share with you something that has been a hot topic around the country. I want to talk about critical race theory. That's right. I believe that critical race theory hurts black America. Critical race theory is a cancer in our society. It is a race-obsessed worldview. Over the past several years, this dangerous far-left ideology has managed to creep into our schools. Critical race theory says that America is an inescapably racist nation. All of our institutions are based on oppression of racial minorities. In my work as a pastor on the south side of Chicago, I've seen critical race theory in various forms taught in our local school and have witnessed firsthand how this ideology hurts the black community. That's right, I believe it hurts the black community. Critical race theory is based on many lies, but I want to focus on 3 of those lies that are especially damaging in the black community. The first lie is an integral part of the ideology. This lie says that an individual's race is his or her defining trait. Nothing is more important than one's race. Race determines our position in life, our ability to achieve, and how others will treat us according to this theory. This lie distorts not only an individual's identity, but also his or her entire ability to be relational. Christianity teaches that our most important relationship is the one we have with Christ. And that relationship comes with a proper understanding of who we are, children of God. Critical race theory only undermines and understands relationships as defined by race, which makes a common identity such as fellow Americans an impossibility. The second lie is that there is an enduring power struggle because most people are racist in their core or to their core. Building a community on the south side of Chicago requires setting aside our own biases and assumptions about other people. Black Americans are absolutely, I believe, hurt by an ideology that tells them their white neighbors are racist oppressors, forcing them to think of themselves outside of the community and to distrust their fellow citizens. The third big lie is that capitalism is a form of white supremacy. According to critical race theory, capitalism excludes blacks. Not surprisingly, this lie does nothing to encourage black youth to apply themselves or to participate in the economy. The objective here is to stir up Marxist grievances. Karl Marx used class struggles to spark enthusiasm for his call for world communism. Well, critical race theorists use race in place of class, aiming to instill that same hatred for free market capitalism. One of our most successful projects has been Project Hood, a community-based resource center that provides job training programs, entrepreneurships, internships, mentorships, counseling, homework help for students, among other services. But critical race theory teaches that capitalism holds black people down. But the exact opposite has been our experiences. One of our jobs programs is a construction course. Participants include former gang members and individuals who recently are released from prison. They receive everything they need to get started, even the work boots to wear for their on-site training projects. At the end, many of those who complete the program go on to have successful careers in the construction field. I've seen firsthand how rejecting the lies of critical race theory is the beginning of doing the transformative work in individuals' lives. We see daily the power of transformed lives through this jobs program, through the promise that comes from participating in honest work in our capitalist system. On the south side of Chicago, we are empowering and overcoming racial divisions, teaching people to love their neighbors regardless of race, and equipping individuals to escape poverty and crime through jobs programs and other programs that are needed. Critical race theory cannot accomplish any of these things, and I believe it only undermines our work. That's the reason why at Project Hood, We don't go by critical race theory. We believe in the systems of America and that they will work if you work.
I preached a message a couple weeks ago about this guy that went up in these weather balloons in a lawn chair because he said, I just couldn't sit there. And I just think that if more people just say, I just couldn't sit there, I got to do something.
Right.
And I just saw this as something to be in solidarity with you, with what's happening down here.
Hey, we're still here. That's right. My name is Pastor Corey Brooks, and I'm on top of this rooftop for 100 days, from November the 20th to February 28th, bringing awareness to the violence in Chicago, but most of all, trying to raise enough funds to build a community center on this block that is much needed called O Block. It's called O, named after a young man named O.D. Perry who was shot and killed. The gangs picked up his name and started calling it O Block. We decided to keep the O, but we want to call it Opportunity Block. Every day, Fox gives me the opportunity to bring you Rooftop Revelations, and I am so thankful. Today I have with us a guest. His name is Paul Glyman. He's a pastor, and we're going to jump right in. We're going to talk just a little bit about what's going on in Chicago, and he's in the suburbs, and we're here in Chicago, but he knows enough. And one of the things that we've been discussing is we really feel like one of the things that we're missing out on is unity. And so, Paul, when we talk about unity, and we talk about getting rid of the violence and the poverty in Chicago, how do you see that becoming a part of the whole scenario?
Well, I think for us as the church, the Bible tells us we're the body of Christ. It doesn't say we have to try to be. It doesn't say that we should be. It says that we are.
Yes.
And that Christ is the head. And when, I appreciate what you're doing down here. That's why I came down. I wanted to be a part of it. But I needed someone to kind of show me how we can do something in a positive way. But I was just saying to you that what if you got a text from someone and they said, what did you send me this message for? What is it? Why did you say this? And you say, I didn't send that message, but your thumb just did its own thing. But sometimes that's the way we are in the body of Christ. We're not working together. But so it's a challenge I'm giving our church that this year, the beginning of the year, just say, man, I'm gonna listen to the head. I'm gonna listen to Jesus, and I'm gonna go with the rest of the body. And I think that we can accomplish so much more together than we can just by ourselves.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I think one of the things that we see in America is a great divide. And one of the reasons why we're not accomplishing as much as we probably could accomplish is because we are such a divided nation, and people are so divided. We're black and white and Christians and non-Christians and Republicans and Democrats. But there comes a time when there have to be some causes where we have to be unified. And that's the reason why I think violence is something that we can all come to the rescue for. And so I appreciate your being here. But I want to ask you this. Why would you come all the way from the suburbs to the south side of Chicago on top of this rooftop?
Well, Chicago's my home. I mean, I live in the suburbs, but and I've said this to people. I've been to basically every major city in the United States except Boston. Chicago is such a beautiful city, but it does have a reputation for violence. Which one is it? Is it the beautiful city or the violent city? It's both. But I want to do something. I preached a message a couple weeks ago about this guy that went up in these weather balloons in a lawn chair because he said, I just couldn't sit there. And I just think that if more people just say, I just couldn't sit there, I got to do something.
Right.
And I just saw this as something to be in solidarity with you, with what's happening down here, and I'm excited about what's happening here. I want to be a part of it.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for your presence and thankful because I think if we as pastors can work together more often and somehow figure out ways to get our churches to work together more often. There's so much that we can accomplish to help the world. And going forward, what do you see yourself doing more of? Do you think taking more action steps toward things like this in your future? And what do you tell people to encourage them to do the same?
Well, absolutely, and we chatted a little bit earlier that I've done a lot of short-term mission trips, and a lot of them to Chicago. But a lot of times as the pastor, I can kind of get my foot in the door, and so I know that our people on Sunday are really going to be excited to hear about what happened, and I know I'm going to have some stories to tell them and challenge them. You can do similar kinds of things, and we can find ways that we can partner, where we can partner as West Hills Community Church with Project Hood.
Yeah. I want to thank Paul, and I want to thank all of you who have consistently been supporting our efforts and showing unity from all across America, from every state and every city that you can imagine. People have been coming to our aid and to our assistance, because that's what it's really going to take. In order for us to build this center, in order for us to change and save more lives, it's going to take all of us working together. So I want to thank Fox for giving us this platform every day, Rooftop Revelations, and I want to thank all of the American people for just being so awesome and so wonderful. It's great to be an American and live in the US of A. So God bless America. God bless you, Paul, and your church, and thank you for being here today. And hopefully we'll do some more work. Amen. As I always say, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Dear Reese's, I hope this letter finds.
My mission is also to bring opportunity to the community as well, because I lost so many friends that I know if they had the certain opportunities that I had, they most likely would never have been in the predicaments that they were in when they did pass away.
What's up, everybody? My name is Pastor Corey Brooks, and you know where I am. That's right, I'm on the rooftop for 100 days from November the 20th to February the 28th, staying in this tent, bringing about awareness to the violence in Chicago, but most of all, trying to raise as much money as we possibly can to build a center on this block that is called O Block. O, named after a young man named O.D. Perry, who was shot and killed. The gangs adopted his name, the O, the letter O, started calling it O Block. Well, I tell you every single day, our goal is to keep the O, but to name it Opportunity Block. So we're here today, and I'm grateful, with my youngest son. That's right, my youngest son, who grew up in this neighborhood that we're in, and he's now a sophomore at Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia, going to school, working on his degree. But it's been tough living in this neighborhood, and I wanted to share from his perspective today just how tough it's been and why some kids don't make it out. So his name is Corey, but we call him Kobe. So welcome to the show, Kobe. My Rooftop Revelations. Welcome home. I know you're away from school and you're home, but I wanted to jump in and talk about living in the neighborhood. How tough it is. We could have easily moved out to the suburbs or something like that, but we decided to stay in the neighborhood. We decided to be a part of the neighborhood. Sometimes I struggle with, was that a good decision or a bad decision, because you all encountered so much growing up, your brothers and sisters. But how tough is growing up in this neighborhood?
I'd say it's kind of very tough to growing up in this neighborhood, because it's not a lot of opportunity, as far as people outside of where like, besides the church, really, there's no real opportunity I see, like, in the community for our people. Like, there's nowhere for them to, like, go work on homework or go work on, like, their craft, like, whatever they're good at. Like, they have nobody really investing time into them except for really the church. And it's like they go through so much on both ends, like, being tied in, with other things,
Right.
and not growing up having the proper opportunities it kind of like it's
Makes it tough.
it's tearing them,
Yeah, so let me ask you about that. We talk about, I know we talk all the time about creating opportunities and helping a lot of the kids, helping your friends. But you lost a lot of friends too in the neighborhood. Can you talk about that for a minute? I know it's painful. I know we talk about the pain of it, and I try to urge you to go to counseling because, post-traumatic stress. But go ahead.
So I can say I lost about, at least that I can think of just right off the bat, I lost 6 friends in the past 5-6 years. And I can say it's been very traumatizing, but it's also made me part of who I am today. And by that, I'm saying, like, they all, like, left a certain lesson with me. Like, it kind of molded me into, like, seeing what my life was supposed to, like, what my mission is almost. Like, I feel like my mission is also to, like, bring opportunity to the community as well. Because I lost so many friends that I know if they had the certain opportunities that I had, they most likely would never have been in the predicaments that they were in when they did pass away.
Yeah, because even though, you grew up in the same neighborhood, you grew up in a household with your mom, your dad, your brothers and sisters, a family unit, and a lot of times, these kids, unfortunately, all they have to depend on is their moms. Their dads are sometimes locked up or, wherever, and it's real tough. It's real difficult.
And 9 times out of 10, the mom is always at work, so it's really, they depend on themselves and their siblings.
Yeah.
It's like they looking at each other to raise each other instead of parents. Like, but I didn't have the same, story.
You know what? I want to ask you one more quick question about gangs. Why is it that in our neighborhood that you automatically, like, I know for a fact you've never been in a gang, you're not in a gang, you're a great kid, but you have friends who have that lifestyle, because they live in certain neighborhoods. Why is it that even though you've never been in a gang, that you automatically get associated with a certain group of people just because you live there? Why is that? What is that about?
I'd say, from my standpoint and, like, from my outside looking in, I can say it's really, like, people involve themselves in gangs because it's protection almost. Like, that's how they look at it. There's no real providers out here for them. There's no real protectors. So they look to the guys on the block, the big brothers on the block, and that's their role models. That's what they run up behind. That's all they see. So that's the road they tend to take, and other people associate you because that's who you around. And even though you may never say, I'm this, just because you hang with them or, like, you from this certain area, or it's like, even if y'all blood, it's a lot of certain things that can just tie you in, and it's not, I don't think that's right, because I don't think nobody should be, like, judged about where they live at or the circumstances, labeled, or, you feel me, about the circumstances they came from. I feel like you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Like, you gotta get to know people first. You never know. You might look at a kid, think he a gangbanger, but he might be the smartest kid that you ever came across. Like, he just never. That's what I'm saying, exactly. Like, I really didn't make kids smarter than guys I went to school with at a private school. Like, they just don't have the same opportunity, the same money to go to these certain schools or to go to these certain communities or like community centers, and like it's nobody really pouring any opportunity or wisdom into them, so they kind of lose track and guidance when growing up, and they look towards what they see and what's closest to them, and that's what's in the neighborhood.
So last question. So do you think a community center will help in our neighborhood, and why?
I honestly think the community center will be one of the biggest things that'll happen to this community. Not just the community of Chicago, really. Like, I feel like, well, I know for a fact it'll open up plenty jobs for everybody in the community, one. And two, I know some of the things that we're going to have in the community center, like a basketball court, studios, dance studios, theater, auditorium, like, it's so many.
Carpentry
That's
classes.
what it's classes, construction classes, like, it's so many outlets for kids to express themselves that we didn't have growing up. Like, we had bits and pieces of it through the church, but the community center will be devoted to really build an opportunity for everybody in Chicago, more than just this one community. I feel like it's not only like gonna be a blueprint for like other communities in Chicago, but communities around the country, like, and eventually around the world.
Absolutely. I believe that. So listen, it's always good being able to talk to my son and share thoughts with him, and I'm so glad and so proud of him being able to grow up in this neighborhood, and not just grow up in the neighborhood, but make good choices and see and then try to be helpful to some of his friends, and that's what it's all about. I want to thank Fox as always for allowing me to share my rooftop revelations, and like I always say, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Based on what the word of God is saying to us, it must move us to a place of where we are to a place to where we need to go. I'm still here. That's right. My name is Pastor Corey Brooks, and I'm still here in this tent for 100 days, bringing attention and awareness to the violence in Chicago and also across America. I am here tonight with a friend all the way from Brooklyn who is staying on the rooftop with me tonight as we talk about these various issues. So I want to say welcome to our Rooftop Revelations. I want to jump right in and just dig on a topic that has been on my mind. And having Pastor Gil Monroe here tonight from Brooklyn is going to help me with this topic. Pastor, one of the things I realize when we talk about violence and the work that we do, our work is very similar. And I realize in this work that politicians try to policy their way through the problems. But for us, it's more than policy. It's about using faith to tackle these problems. The question I want to ask you is, how do you believe that faith fills the gap when it comes to working in these areas of violence?
Right. So thank you for that, Pastor Brooks. I think that politicians are called to make policies, and pastors are called to people. And because we're called to people, we're definitely concerned about the policies that politicians make. And therefore, because of our faith, we must be engaged and involved in policy because policy, again, affects our people. So when you're looking at policy, you have to look at it from a standpoint, from a humanistic standpoint. How would this affect the person that I want it to help? And so you can't do policy on money. You can't do it on favoritism. It must be about people. You know, Jesus said something that I think that we should all remember, and he talked about the fact that he said that the poor you will always have among you. And so his work and his daily life was around the poor. He was around people who they considered to him a white babbler. They considered to him that he was a friend of the sinners because he was around the people who, if you have the right policy, they'll be pulled out of poverty. And so I think that, again, politicians need to make the right decision when they're making policy to really help the people.
And as we talk about faith, we live in this secular society, and how do you think it is that faith responds as we move into these environments? I know for me, faith is so important because without that God presence, without that godly work, it's empty. And so my faith is what pushes me into action. It's what causes me to love people. It's what causes me to have love for my neighbors.
Right.
And it's that faith. Do you think it's that faith that we need if we're going to change this issue that we're faced with, especially with the violence?
Yeah, I think for us too as well, is that we must have faith that moves God, right? I mean, you have to have faith to be in this cold for sure. But that faith that we're talking about must propel us to action. You can't have faith without movement. There is no time in the Bible where you have seen that there were individuals who had faith and were stand still, in the sense of not moving forward.
Right.
So our faith must propel us based on what the word of God is saying to us. It must move us to a place of where we are to a place to where we need to go. And so I think that is one thing that is really powerful about faith. It drives you, it pushes you, it moves you in the direction of God.
Well, listen, it's all about having that good faith that Eli Steele writes about and talks about. Shelby Steele writes and talks about that good faith. And that's what we're trying to practice. So until then, till tomorrow, I'm going to still be on this roof. Please keep praying. Please keep supporting. Thank you to my Fox family for giving us this platform for Rooftop Revelations. Until the next time, as I always say, peace.
Here she is.
Example, because my daughter didn't have the father example of a man, so I had to step up and be that power example of a woman, and to encourage my daughters that nothing, don't allow nothing or anything stop you.
Hello, everybody. Can you believe it? I'm still right here. That's right. On the south side of Chicago, living in this tent for 100 days from November the 20th to February 28th, bringing awareness about the violence in Chicago. And also trying to raise money to build a community center on this block called O Block. It's called O Block because it's named after a young man named O.D. Berry who was shot and killed. The gangs kept the O in his name and started calling it O Block. We decided we're going to keep the O, but we're going to call it Opportunity Block. I want to thank Fox for giving me this opportunity to bring you again Rooftop Revelations. Every now and then I wake up with ideas or thoughts and opinions, and I think about people who have become what I want to call a success story as far as it relates to what we do at Project Hood and New Beginnings Church. And if there ever was a person who epitomizes our story of success through struggle, it's this sister who's right here with me today. I'm so excited to have her with me. Tanya is here. Thank you for being here, Tanya. I know it's cold.
It's okay.
I want to jump right in and tell your journey and tell your story. You've been such a blessing to everything that we do, and you've been a strong part of everything that we do. You're a successful nurse now, but that's not the story. That's more to the story than that. Your husband was tragically shot and killed about how many years ago?
It'll be 15 years September.
15 years ago, September. Can you tell us about that experience and tell us what happened?
On September 2nd, 2007, I was at church and got a call telling me to come to A&R Lee's funeral home. When I got to the funeral home, I noticed police and everyone everywhere, and to find out that my husband was shot and killed in his vehicle.
Yeah. I know the story. How many times was he shot?
He was shot on that day. He was shot like 7 times.
7 times.
Mm-hmm.
And he was shot and killed by a group of guys who we later found out were part of a crew who have been robbing people and killing people all over Chicago, and they've since been convicted and in federal prison now. But to add insult to injury, not only was he shot and killed, but that left you with 5 little girls. And I want to talk about that because you have been so strong and such a good parent. Tell us about the experience of having to raise 5 girls when their father has been shot and killed.
Ooh, it wasn't easy. I had 5 daughters who was left fatherless. I'm a very strong woman, and I always wanted to set a goal for my children. So I kept praying. That was number one. Because just think about raising 5 daughters with no father in Chicago, the south side of Chicago. So they all, one got an attitude this day, one acting up that week, the next week another one acting up. It was plenty of times I had to leave work to go up to the school because my daughter was acting out in anger, and I had to leave work. I get to the school. She was in so much pain because of the death of her father, so she reacted out in anger. So with the help of New Beginnings Church, Pastor Brooks, Project Hood, I had to get a little counseling for my kids and myself. And I always told myself I won't give up. I couldn't give up because I had 5 young ladies watching me.
You need an example. And so not only were you, here it is, your husband's been shot and killed. You got these 5 girls. You're working a full-time job, having to do everything that a parent has to do for 5 girls. But you found time, and this is what really is amazing. You found time to go back to school. Why did you go back to school? Because you could have just worked your job, took care of your 5 girls. Why did you go back to school?
I went back to school because I had a goal. And my goal was always I wanted to be a nurse. So I had to set examples to my 5 daughters. No matter what you're going through in life, you can always be whatever it is you choose to be. Nothing can stop you if that's what your mind is set to. So one day I just said, you know what, I'm going to go back to school. And thank God that I was able to go to school during the hours that my kids was in school. And still work. My job made it possible for me to be able to leave work, start working different hours so I can finish my career. I had to be the example because my daughter didn't have the father example of a man. So I had to step up and be that power example of a woman and to encourage my daughters that don't allow nothing or anything stop you. So I went back to school. While they was in school, I got my associate's degree first. Still while my kids in school, still was working. I went back to school and got my bachelor's in nursing. Still while my kids is in school, to my youngest, graduating from, they all graduated from high school on time. Thank God of that. No teen parents. Thank God they didn't come up statistic to the streets because of all the violence in Chicago. Because of a strong woman and mother and determination that I had to set a goal for my daughters.
And you have done an excellent job. And that's the reason why it's so important that we have Project Hood. We want to give women like Tanya who are going through situations opportunities, give them chances, allow them the help that they need to go back to school, to find another career, to go down another path, to be successful. And that's about what we're trying to do. We want Project Hood to be an example so that we can have more sisters like Tanya in Chicago and we can make it a much better place. So I want to thank her. I want to salute you. I want to congratulate you, working hard, finishing school, take care of your girls. We love you and all that you do. And now you can help us finish mentoring these young ladies. And that's really what your gift is. And I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to this, but
All right, as I always say, thank you for tuning in to our Rooftop Revelations. Thank you to Fox for giving us this opportunity.